Is the future of technology already unfolding before our eyes? Well, today we're going to delve into the digital tomorrow. And our guide, he's at the forefront of innovation. His name is Adam Burden. He's a visionary at Accenture, and he's going to be sharing his groundbreaking perspectives from the 2024 Technology Vision Report. Now, this conversation promises to unravel the very fabric of future technologies, from generative AI's massive economic impact to the seamless integration of human-by-design tech in our daily lives. But the big question is, how are these advancements poised to transform the way we work, interact, and think about innovation? Well, today we're going to explore the potential of these technologies to reshape our world, the challenges we must navigate, and the ethical considerations that come with such powerful tools. But before we get today's guest on, it's time for a quick shout out to the sponsors of Tech Talks Daily. And in today's digital age where data breaches are all too common, securing sensitive information has never been more critical, right? Well, enter Kiteworks, a pinnacle of managed file transfer security, or MFT security. So with its FedRAMP moderate authorization, a prestigious certification that they've held since 2017 by the Department of Defense, Kiteworks stand as a bastion of security in a sea of uncertainty. So step into the future of secure file transfer with Kiteworks by visiting kiteworks.com today to see why it's hailed as the most secure MFT on the market. So once again, kiteworks.com. And now let's get today's guest on. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to West Virginia, where today's guest is waiting to join me. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Burden. I'm the global lead for innovation at Accenture, and also I'm our chief software engineer. In that job, I'm responsible for all of our R&D globally, our ventures investments that we make with startups, as well as our innovation consulting organization. Let's see, I've been with Accenture now coming up on 32 years, and I've worked across pretty much every industry, but I would say particularly in like utilities and banking, pharma, and insurance. These days I spend my time working mostly at our clients and also directing some of our research efforts into areas like quantum computing, humanoid robotics, biologic compute, and of course, everybody's favorite, artificial intelligence. I'm also one of the authors of our Tech Vision report. But not everything about me, I promise, is about work. I also really enjoy bringing vintage cars back to life, and I'm currently working on a big project that I've nicknamed the Rustang Restoration. So thank you for having me on the show. It's good to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you join me. I was recently speaking with Mark Curtis, who's the Global Sustainability and Thought Leadership Lead for Accenture. So do you know him?
I do.
Yeah, great guy. We spoke a few times in the past and we were talking. And before you came on the podcast today, I was doing a little research on you. And given the Accenture 2024 Technology Vision Report, there was a huge stat in there. I think that generative AI could impact 44% of all working hours and create up to $8 trillion in global economic value. I mean, can you elaborate on that and how businesses should maybe start strategically approaching integration of this technology? Because I know there's a lot sat on the sidelines, unsure of what to do next. And also, what are the key sectors you foresee being most transformed by generative AI?
Sure, there's a lot to unpack in that question, but can we first just agree it's just a stunning number, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's eye popping, but it's backed up by real data and real research. And what we believe here is that to reinvent with generative AI, companies spent 2023 doing a lot of experimentation, and there's a different approach that's necessary in 2024. They're going to need to shift from siloed use cases to more looking at end-to-end processes. So like, for example, in marketing, a lot of people have been using generative AI for image generation. Now they need to relook at the entire marketing process. So taking a look at the entire organization's whole value chain. And this means really like looking at generative AI not just as like a multi-year, change agenda that they're going to use across their enterprise, but really like a continuous innovation. Because make no mistake, there's still going to be a lot of innovation coming at us in the artificial intelligence field. Now, companies they need in order to do this, they need to elevate their IT stack for the AI era. A lot of them don't have what we call a digital core that's really prepared to be able to handle the demands of an AI-powered enterprise. This means things like having a modern data foundation, having an abstraction layer for your AI architecture. Not to get too technical, but you need something that's really going to support the use of different and lots of different multiple foundation models. And it also is going to help you, if you do that in the right way, future-proof yourself from changes that are inevitably going to occur in some of those, continued advancements I talked about earlier. And, I'd say the other dimension here that's so important for companies to think about is that it's going to radically change how work is done, and it's going to just make you rethink business processes. I actually sometimes like to say that maybe you actually just need to think not just about the business process you have, but the business processes you'd like to have too. Things that it'll enable you never imagined were possible, maybe opening entirely new markets that seemed unaffordable to support in the past. Now, this actually means that companies are going to need more people who understand how to work with generative AI, the prompt engineers and people doing data management behind the scenes, not less people. And I guess the thing that's sometimes lost here is that there's no AI ready workforce for organizations to go hire from. Companies are going to need to take their existing workers and reshape their workforce and reinvent that workforce, retrain them for the Gen AI era. This is exciting for those employees, and it's going to require actually investing more in the people than in the technology. And that's really one of the key learnings that we've had and findings we've had over the past year. Even here at Accenture, we're doing a whole lot of learning ourselves about how Gen AI is going to change the way that we deliver services to our clients. And I guess the last dimension of this is around having a good, responsible AI framework. There's a huge gap between responsible AI intention. So, I want to do responsible AI things and actual execution. So maybe we can spend some more time talking about that later. And I think the second part of your question was about, what key sectors will be impacted.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of analysis on this. And there's a couple of them that really rise to the top of the list because of the nature of the work that they do. So those sectors would be banking, insurance, capital markets, and retail. Now, it doesn't mean, as I said earlier, every enterprise will be impacted, but these are the ones who are going to find, 60, 70, 80% plus of their business processes impacted in a major way by generative AI. And then, what I like to actually think about, and this is where I said, every enterprise is impacted. There's a lot of common functions across businesses. And some of those common functions are massively changed in this era. IT, the space I work in, technology, legal, marketing, sales, customer service, all massively impacted by this. So these are common functions that exist in every enterprise, in addition to the businesses and sectors that I just spoke about. So those are some of the big impacts that we see from Gen AI and the ways that we believe that enterprises need to begin to prepare for those changes.
And the report also highlights the movement towards human by design technologies, which is incredibly intriguing. So can you talk about some of the implications of this trend for business leaders, particularly in terms of enhancing human productivity and creativity, and how you envision these technologies reshaping the future workplace?
Well, I love talking about this report, not just because I was one of the authors of it, because it's just such a a defining moment for us and for technology. And here, you're talking about our tech vision, and the title this year is Human by Design. I think it's actually really important to explain what the title means. So, emerging technology and especially artificial intelligence is actually getting more human. It started with things like computer vision and language understanding and being able to do audio understanding and others. And now it's able to mimic creativity. And consequently, we're starting to see this massive wave of tech breakthroughs where it's reimagining the interface with machines in ways that are more human by design. And in 2024, we're going to see tons of technology releases where things are just becoming much more intuitive. I saw some of this stuff at CES where, instead of, going through the tangle of setting up a TV, you just tell like a TV, for example, I want you to set yourself up for a Comcast, cable box, and it will do it. And that's a pretty extraordinary leap from, some of the things that we are today, having to clumsily, navigate through menus and things like that. Technology is going to become a lot more human by design. And, here's where the implications for business are just monumental. There's going to be a possibility here for them to create strategies where there's AI-based solutions that erase that friction, which has always exists between people and tech. It's going to do things like turn searching into synthesizing. It's going to enable the lesser skilled among us to do higher level and more rewarding work. I actually like to say this term because I think it captures it really well. AI is going to be all about, and especially Gen AI, making AI is going to be not about making superhumans, but rather about making humans super. It's going to make us so much more able and capable to accomplish more every day. And I think that by embracing this possibility and executing on the strategies I was mentioning, that many business leaders are going to create this amazing foundation for what will quite possibly be this Cambrian era, if you will, of like human creativity and unleashing a productivity that the world's ever seen. I really believe, we'd seen sort of a stalling of GDP growth and other things. This is going to be, the fuel boost that needs to continue an upward trajectory for a long time to come.
And one of the other things that really stood out for me was how the report mentions this transformation in the search business through AI and how it's ultimately reshaping our relationship with knowledge. So how do you see this affecting decision-making processes in organizations? And any challenges or opportunities you see business facing?
It's a great possibility. It's one of the trends that we outline called a match made in AI. And first, let me just explain why do we think this is happening? And it's all about the way that data is actually stored behind the scenes. It's becoming more human-like. The way that information and data is represented in a lot of the AI models is not unlike how neurons create connections and relationships between information that you think about when you're using your brain. And it's allowing us to do things like turn search into synthesizing. And things like decision-making processes have already begun to be influenced by this. I mean, every enterprise, I can tell you, most people are experimenting with using Gen AI in some way. If it's not OpenAI's, ChatGPT product, it's maybe Google Gemini or other things, but they're using it to create first drafts, to suggest opinions, etc. I'll give you an example. I told you earlier I'm the chief software engineer. Yes, that means I still write software occasionally. I've been working on an e-commerce application, and one of the things that a client wanted to do was to add a wish list feature. And I said, well, I've never done a wish list before, but I think we can probably come up with, what that should do. But I started by asking a Gen AI agent, tell me what you would suggest to go into a wish list. And it came up with the, kind of the usual stuff that I would expect, the ability to share it with others and, to create a wish list, track what was actually purchased off it, that type of thing. Cause, I like to get gifts. So I was thinking about that. But then it started suggesting things I hadn't even imagined. It came up with sharing this wish list out on social media. And I'm like, wow, that's actually a really great idea. I hadn't even considered that would be an interesting thing to do. And my point here is that if we're starting to think about using Gen AI in decision making processes, it's going to help us create richer decisions, richer information, and make more informed decisions about doing things. And by the way, I can use Gen AI to help me with the same thing of creating a first draft anyway of a business case for that. So yeah, the challenges here in this is just going to be, starting to embrace using that as part of your day-to-day working. It's a big change to how your style of working and how you do things. But I think with responsible AI guidelines in place, kind of thinking about how do I keep a human in the loop on this process, you ensure that, the AI agents that you're using are trained on data sets that are free of bias and they're secure. That possibility certainly exists in front of us. It's an exciting time for a match made in AI. I really think that, how decision making and how information is processed in enterprises is going to be really different tomorrow.
And for any business leader listening to our conversation today, they're hearing about that trend of Gen AI agents. What shift do you see happening in business strategies, and where should they begin to prepare for the integration of these AI agents and integration into their business models? Because it's quite intimidating for a lot of people.
It is. AI agents is a novel a concept for a lot of folks. But I want you to imagine for a minute, this collection of autonomous agents that are working together, but on your behalf to accomplish like all the mundane stuff that you hate doing, the digital tasks of your life, if you will. Confirming appointments and doing the things that are just annoying for you, but they need to get done. We're already seeing enterprise or businesses spring up that do this kind of thing with you or for you. One of them is called Do Not Pay. It's basically a service, an autonomous agent that renegotiates your subscription types of plans, rates with some of the providers. So like Amazon or Netflix or Hulu or others. And it'll actually act on your behalf as an agent to go out and renegotiate some of those rates. Is that something that you would look forward to doing? I don't think so. So now think about this and multiply it. Think about billions or even trillions of these agents out there autonomously working all the time with business as an enterprise. It's really going to reshape how customers engage. In fact, the customer is actually now an agent. And as I sometimes joke with some of my marketing friends, did they ever imagine a world where they'd be marketing to AI in the future? Because they're going to. In fact, they might be marketing to AI actually more than they are with people. And, to be ready for this, businesses really need to take a hard look at that digital core that I talked about earlier. If their digital core is not prepared to be able to handle this influx of autonomous agents and this meet my agent kind of a trend that we expect, it's really going to struggle under the weight of demands that are created by that. And I think that we're only seeing the beginning and scratching the surface with little things like Do Not Pay that are out there. There's going to be lots and lots of these things that are acting on behalf of consumers and even other businesses out in the world tomorrow.
And speaking of scratching the surface, the report also touches on spatial computing and its potential in creating new value in immersive worlds from metaverse, AR, VR, etc. Yeah. That the Apple headset recently released is a great example that is great, but currently missing that killer app. But that will change exactly the same way it did with the iPhone more than a decade ago. So what killer apps should businesses be on the lookout for, and how can companies capitalize on these emerging technologies?
Let's be honest, it's been kind of a disappointing year for the metaverse, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And one of the things that we like to say is the metaverse is dead, long live the metaverse. And because the truth is it's alive. And it's very, very strong, especially in the enterprise, and it's creating a lot of value in these new realities. Yes, we're going to start seeing, new apps and killer apps out there. The one that we really have a lot of faith in, especially, is in the digital twin type environment, places where you can, safely explore, hazardous environments and learn how to perform tasks. But we also believe that the augmented reality, virtual reality world will continue to explode. I mean, we see, a lot of interest from consumers in shopping in that type of environment. And retailers are waking up to that possibility that they're going to be using their Vision Pro and other things in the future to actually explore their stores in a virtual way. We've done some really cool work with Telstra and Google in Australia. Rethinking kind of like a stadium experience. So when you're in a big soccer match, or in a I guess they play cricket there as well. What would that experience? What could it look like? And how can you refresh that without significant physical changes? So imagine, in an app where a fan can sort of virtually help find their seats, but then they can actually hold up their devices to the field and they'll see stats about the players that they're looking at, sort of overlaid with the players themselves. I mean, it has the potential to really kind of change, the fan experience. And that's the possibilities that we see in the future with these killer apps that are ahead in the spatial computing space. It's good to say that the metaverse is dead and long live the metaverse, because I think we're reawakening to what the possibilities are here for experience and business success in that environment.
And I also love how the report emphasizes the need for modern network services and the need for low latency, because without that stuff, we can't bring things, emerging technologies like generative AI to life. So what would you say are the key considerations for businesses in upgrading and adapting their network infrastructure? And how does it all tie into the overall readiness of a more tech-driven future?
Well, you can create the most amazing experience in the world, but if you don't have the bandwidth to be able to support it, nobody's ever going to enjoy it, right? So no kidding around here. The volumes of data that we're talking about are astronomical. I mean, whether it's for generative AI or spatial computing experience, and that trend that I just discussed around the space that we need, it's a multiple of what's typically in place today. And it's also really dynamic as well. That type of communications environment is constantly needing to be changed. So modern network services like 5G are absolutely prerequisites for, taking digital twin capabilities on the factory floor. Imagine like a worker in a refinery who's doing their job, and they've got a head-mounted visor, and it's kind of helping them ensure they're following the right procedures for changing out a valve, and they're adhering to the safety guidelines. You absolutely need the right bandwidth in place for that. That's what that employee requires to be able to do their work in the future. So, think about technologies like 5G, especially software-defined networking. These are going to be essential in the future enterprise. And I just add too that don't forget the increasing security demands on those edge networks that will be out there. Of course, they're going to be a new threat vector for a lot of enterprises, and there's going to be a lot of attention paid to making sure that those data networks are equally secure to the ones inside of their data centers.
And a question I've got to ask, with the report identifying trends like AI-powered wearables and neurotech, all incredibly exciting and cool, what are your thoughts, though, on how these technologies will eventually alter human interaction in both personal and professional spheres? What should business leaders be aware of when considering integrating some of these technologies?
This is everybody's favorite trend.
Yeah.
We call it the body electronic. And, we believe that these technologies are really instrumental to unlock, the possibilities of what we've described in the human by design tech vision. The thing to maybe keep in mind here is they're not all intrusive. I want you to imagine for a minute that you're working with a robot and you're instructing it on how to move a box from point A to point B, and the robot does something that you weren't expecting. What if the robot could see your face and see the surprise on your face? Right? They might stop what they're doing, right, and sort of rethink what's going on. And that's a microcosm of what we expect to see as technology becomes more human by design, and that these interfaces, the body electronic and how it actually interfaces with machines is going to change in the future. I think what's really fascinating about this trend as well is that as technology becomes more human, and the more of it that we have around us every day, it's actually going to seemingly disappear. Those clumsy interfaces that you're probably using, I'm using right now, keyboards and mice and that type of thing, maybe they're all gone. Maybe machines just interface with us like people, like it always should have been, and hence human by design.
And any updates on the jetpack I've been waiting for since the Los Angeles Olympics in 1984? Are we going to get one of those?
I was promised flying cars, sir, and yet they have not shown up either.
And finally, with 93% of executives all agreeing on the importance of purposeful innovation in the face of this rapid technological advancements that we're seeing everywhere, any advice that business leaders could take on balancing innovation with ethical considerations and societal impact? Huge topic right now, isn't it?
This is top of mind for boards, for C-suite executives and others. And look, a lot of companies, there's just a big gap between, saying that they want to do responsible AI things and actually executing on it. If you look into this data a bit further, only 2% of companies would say they actually have operationalized a responsible AI framework across their organization. And while 30% say they expect to do so, they say they're going to do so over the next 18 months. I'm not sure that's going to be fast enough. I think that we're going to see evolution in this space much more rapidly, and organizations are going to have to move very fast to catch up to be able to support that. But more broadly, I think with any technology, it's really key that an organization has a strong moral compass about how they work with these innovations. We do it when we're working in our R&D organization that I described to you earlier. And you got to have the governance and guardrails to ensure that, the principles that you have as a company or an enterprise or a government are upheld. Also maybe in especially in places like Europe and others, that you're complying with regulatory guidelines too. We like to use this term positive engineering to kind of encompass, what our expected outcomes are here, should you follow all these approaches. And frankly, there's, as I said, there's a lot of tech that falls in this category, like the coming era of what we call in silico bio, gene editing, quantum computing. These all introduce a lot of ethical questions for companies. So getting ahead of their use in an organization is pretty key. I'd say certainly AI is top of mind for every enterprise today. And, if companies and listeners were thinking, well, how do we get started on this? What do? We would say there's a few things that are really important to get going on. It's tricky to know where to start, but there's a few things that if you really focus on, you can make progress here pretty quickly. One is getting AI governance and principles stood up. A second one is doing a real comprehensive AI risk assessment, putting in place responsible AI testing. So just like every company tests software before they put it into production, they need to do the same thing with AI models. Having something that helps you monitor ongoing compliance of AI. And then finally, having real discussions with employees and understanding and planning for the workforce impact, how you're going to handle things like sustainability and privacy and security. That's a bit of a laundry list of things to do, but tackling those areas first, you can make some really great progress around having, intentional AI in place and a responsible AI framework that's working for your organization.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on here today and sharing insights from that report. So much food for thought. But I'm going to ask you to leave one final gift for everyone listening. I always ask my guests if they've got a book that they'd like to leave our Amazon wish list that people can check out. So is there a book you'd like to recommend and why?
All right, let me think about that for a second. So, okay. All right. I got one. So, I'm going to surprise you with a decidedly untechnical book, I think. It's actually, it's one of my very favorites. I've actually read it a couple of times. And it's called One Man's Wilderness: An Alaskan Odyssey. And it's the story of a guy who in 1968 sort of left the modern world behind, and he just had pretty much an axe and a gun, and he moved to remote Alaska. And it's a really simple book, and it has a day-to-day of accounting of how he built shelter, caught food, and basically survived on his own because he did it for 30 years all by himself. And I think it's inspirational because it can show really how anyone, even with just a little bit of training, can teach themselves to accomplish these difficult tasks, whether it's AI or hunting for food. And the pictures in the book are pretty extraordinary of what he did. And I think all of us sometimes feel like when the pace of technology change is just getting a little bit too much, or at least I do. I find myself daydreaming of what this guy, Richard Pernecki, did for 30 years in the Alaskan wilderness. But then, usually right around that time, my feed will pop with some breakthrough in humanoid robotics or something. And I go digging into understanding that instead. So after all, I do hear that they have mosquitoes the size of sparrows in Alaska, and I really have no interest in living there as a result.
It sounded great until you said mosquito. That's the size of sparrows. Was that related to the film Into the Wild in some way? Was that
not really? No. This guy actually lived. Not like the other guy and had an unfortunate outcome. No. This person truly was a pioneer living, in a remote part of a national forest, and just was completely alone for 30 years. I think he got a mail plane that came to him like once every 6 months or something. That was about it.
Wow. I'm going to be checking that out. Sounds fascinating. So I'll add that to the Amazon wish list. And for anyone listening wanting to explore some of the things we talked about today, check out the report, etc. Where would you like to point everyone listening?
Definitely go to accenture.com/techvision. You can read all about our 2024 tech vision and each of the trends that we've spent some time discussing today.
Well, as we said at the very beginning of the podcast, there's so many areas of this emerging technology space. The pace of technological change is so intimidating for a lot of people. But for me today, you've really simplified this and helped anybody listening understand generative AI's potential in the workplace, how to navigate the human by design technologies that we're seeing, and also exploring the evolution of knowledge management with AI, the human interface with embedded technologies in a way that is not intimidating, and also shining a light on the importance of innovating with purpose and making sure new solutions are ethically researched. But more than anything, though, you even had a chance to leave us with a cracking book too that I'm going to be checking out. So thanks for joining me today.
Awesome. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
So as we conclude today's enlightening journey with Adam, I think it's clear that the horizon of technology is both thrilling as it is daunting. And the 2024 Technology Vision Report from Accenture doesn't just forecast trends, it's almost painting a vivid picture of a future where technology and humanity converge in unprecedented ways. From the potential of generative AI to revolutionise industries and creating unparalleled economic value, to the emergence of human by design technology that promise to democratise expertise, the future seems ripe with opportunity, doesn't it? And yet, as we stand on the cusp of this new era, the question of responsible innovation looms large. How do we harness these advancements while ensuring that they serve greater good and bridge the gap between technological capability and ethical responsibility? So as we ponder these possibilities, I invite you all to share your thoughts. What excites you about the future of technology? How do we navigate the challenges it presents to ensure a future that benefits us all? Please join the conversation, help shape this dialogue as we venture into the unknown together and these uncharted digital waters. And you can do all that by simply sending me an email, techblogwriter@outlook.com. If you want to come on the show, you got a question, whatever it is. Equally, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. Let's keep it going. But that's it for today. So just a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.